Henry, come visit the old workshop. There's something I need to show you.
All right, Joey. I'm here. Let's see if we can find what you wanted me to see.
Bendy and Ink Machine. Ah, brings me back to a simpler time. Games were riddled with bugs, and when I only had to care about what I wanted to do today. Anyways, I saw the new trailer for Bendy and the Dark Revival, and I got reminded of this game, so I decided to revisit it, and so here I am. Bendy and the Ink Machine is an episodic horror game with graphics heavily inspired by the old-time cartoons from the 1930s and 40s. The game consists of 5 chapters, and for anyone who hasn't played the game, here's just a short rundown of each chapter. Chapter 1, Moving Pictures. It was released on February 10th of 2017, and this chapter has us exploring our old workplace because we were invited by our old pal, Joey Drew. Henry goes to the old factory not expecting any of what is about to happen, and eventually we make our way to the old ink machine and try to turn it on. Its pressure is low and we have to turn the valve to raise it, but there's a catch. To turn the valve, we must gather 6 items and place them on these pedestals. The items that we need are a bendy plush, an old record, an ink jar, a gear, a wrench, and a book. All these items can be found around the map in various locations and each represent a certain sector of the studio. After we collect all the items, we place them on the pillars and that unblocks the pressure valve, which you turn on post haste. After all of this, the ink machine turns on and we go to check it out. Upon getting there, we encounter Bendy, who chases us all the way to the exit. When we try to leave, the floorboards break and we fall deeper into the studio and deeper into madness. Find this weird pentagram, have some flashbacks, and pass out. And this prompts the beginning of Chapter 2, The Old Song, released on April 18th, 2017. Begin right where we left off. On regaining consciousness, we search for a way out, which is when we encounter a strange man with a bendy mask. This is Sammy Lawrence, and he's basically a heretic, blindly following Bendy and calling himself his prophet. Anyways, here we have our first taste of the game's combat against a few searchers, which are these inky messes. I'll get into the combat a little bit later on. We continue to the music room, where we have to find the correct order of playing the instruments, so we search the rubbish for keys, like any sane person stuck in an abandoned studio should, and we find Wally Frank's closet keys. So we open the closet and we find the code, which is actually just his favorite melody. Why do we do all this, you might ask? The answer is to drain a stairwell filled with ink. Once we drain it, we get ambushed by the crazed Sammy, who tries to sacrifice us but gets attacked by Bendy instead. We manage to wiggle out of our bindings and continue running, which is when Bendy also finds us again and we escape into a safe room, which is when we finally meet Boris and start Chapter 3, Rise and Fall, released on September 28th, 2017. This is probably the longest chapter in the game, and it starts us off where we left off in Boris' safe house. We try and leave, but he has us make him soup. Anyway, gives us a lever to open the safe house door and we depart hand in hand. Get introduced to Alice Angel and her mangled ass face, and she oh so kindly invites us down to her lair, where we find a bunch of Boris abominations and a big elevator leading down to her actual burrow. Here she has us cross a couple things off her to-do list. After we successfully grab some gears for her machines on level K, she warns us that Bendy is coming, and he does indeed roam the halls. When he comes, all we can do is hide, and we cannot fight back in any way. Now, while we are still avoiding Big Ink Demon, she gives us a syringe and has us collect extra thick ink from searchers on level 11. Furthermore, we go down to level P to collect the valve cores which are hidden behind these pump puzzle things. After that, the deformed angel sends us back to break Bendy cutouts, and let's just say he does not like that and gets much more aggressive and constantly blocks her path back. Then we go to deliver the news to the angel, and we are tasked with protecting her home base from the butcher gang and a bunch of searchers. Finally, we have to get ink hearts from the projector's lair. Roams around, but we get past him and escape with the hearts. Finally, she lets us go to the bottom floor, 14, or so she says. She brings us down in the elevator with Boris and ultimately takes him away from us, which starts Chapter 4, Colossal Wonders, released on April 30th, 2018. Chapter starts us exactly where we left off once again, searching for Boris and chasing after Alice. Find a library which has one of those secret book codes which are really cool, and it reveals an entrance to a mine where we fix a gondola using this ink creating thing. I don't really know what it is. We fix the gondola and we go across the chasm. Seriously, how in the hell is this a studio? After that, Alice teases us as we chase her slowly and stumble into a room full of inky people who are sad, terrified, and lost. These are the lost ones. We go through a vent that leads to a main office with a switch, and said switch opens a door to Bendy Land, which the Inky Souls have aptly painted over and called Bendy Hell. In Bendy Hell, there's a few minigames that you have to beat, but not complete to advance. Now ignore the fact that I wasted about 20 minutes here on the fucking ball game. Anyway, this reveals 4 switches, each having a corresponding door to unlock. They have to be done in order, and first up is a stealth challenge where we have to pull 2 levers guarded by the butcher gang, and although we have to defend ourselves is cans that we can throw. The second room is seemingly empty with a carousel in the middle, but upon playing the tape that's right in front of us, Bertram reveals himself from inside the carousel. Break his carousel, defeat him, and go pull the lever which opens up a room with the projectionist. Again, we have to pull a switch while avoiding him. Once we pull the lever and leave, Bendy absolutely clocks his ass and takes his head off. Finally, we unlock the way to the haunted house where Alice holds a monologue, yada yada, and what Boris is Frankenstein's monster now. We sadly have to finish Boris off here, which is when Alice rushes in to kill us but is stabbed in the back by Alice and Boris? Chapter 5, The Last Reel, was released on October 26, 2018. Begin locked in a prison cell by new Alice and Boris. Alice apologizes, but Boris is still very much skeptical of us. She gives us a new tool and shows us how messages have been written in invisible ink all around the studio. Soon enough, Bendy finds their hideout and they run, leaving us for dead. But we follow the messages left in the studio and find a way out of the prison cell. We find a boat and sail to a junky city of lost ones, which is where Sammy attacks us, angry because Bendy attacked him after he has given everything to him. We get overpowered, but Boris saves us, and now the 3 of us are a team. At least shortly. There's a big fight against ink monsters, searchers, and all of the above. But we survive and continue forward when we again fall into another hole and end up in the offices. Now, with new determination, we decide to go to Bendy's lair to finish him off, but the path is blocked by ink, which means Alice and Boris have to stay behind. They can't go with us. Finally, we reach Bendy's domain and have a big fight where we emerge victorious. Subsequently, we are now in Joey's house, and he tells us that he needs to show us something.
Henry, come visit the old workshop. There's something I need to show you.
And we're right back where we started.
All right, Joey. I'm here. Let's see if we can find what you wanted me to see.
Quick note, there's also an additional chapter called Chapter Question Mark, the Archives, which is just kind of a feature that compiles a bunch of models and some stories behind those models for those who are curious on how and why they were made and used. So, right off the bat, this game is good. Very good. Everything about the game leads to a very fun and enthralling experience. Even if the game's runtime is quite short, again at roughly 5 hours for me, the important thing is what the devs managed to accomplish in that short runtime. The game's art style is cool use of cel shading in combination with the old-timey studio aesthetic. It makes everything feel like it was happening on an old camcorder without the clunky UI shown in many other games like Slender the Arrival, for example. Sense of liminality also goes a long way towards making the experience much more tense. It feels like going to an old family house, as we are commonly reminded by Henry on how he used to work here and the good times that he had. While the game's scares and big horror aspects aren't anything spectacular, it makes up for it with the sheer tension and setting. It builds constantly due to the fear of knowing that we are not alone, yet nothing comes for so long that it basically makes us feel safe. I also want to mention the fan-made posters used everywhere in the game, the credits showing a lot of community members that made content around the game, and I just found that really cool. Now, the gameplay itself, it isn't anything otherworldly. It goes between two settings for pretty much the entire game. An "oh no, I have no weapon, I gotta hide" section, and a "weapon go smash, axe go chop" section. It sadly ends up being kind of a fetch quest simulator for a lot of the game. The place where I think this is the most egregious is chapter 3, which just felt so goddamn long for no reason. Because Alice just completely ignores any goal and just sends us on a fetch quest. In this chapter, pretty much everything is eh. The shining light in the monotony is the voice acting and freak show design of Alice. Her voice actor puts on a goddamn show and nails the psychotic tone of this character drifting further and further into this obsession of becoming perfect. Once we make it out of chapter 3, the game's latter two chapters go for more of an action tone. We get many more smash sections where we fight groups of enemies. They're decently fun, but I'd really like the animation to be, well, anything but this slow bonk. In the end, the game does a lot well, especially with the story, which you can theorize about for hours at a time. The best thing it does, though, is the depth given to the world, where with its scattered tape recorders filling in not only the story of the crooked empire of Joey Drew, but also the slow descent into the insanity of the characters. And in my eyes, the main theme here is obsession. We see it everywhere, from Joey himself with his obsession of an animation empire to Susie Campbell wanting to become Alice, Bertram in his theme park, the projectionists. I found it to be just a really cool and consistent theme that fits. With the new game literally coming out in a few days, it's safe to say I am excited to see what the devs can slap together with the experience they got from making the first game. Looking at the trailer, it seems like the series has firmly planted its feet as an action horror game, which I think is fine. I would like to see more horror, but I understand it. It really just seems to be a decision to get more people to try the game. Combat seems to be relatively unchanged, but it looks like they made many more threats and scarier designs to try and make it scarier. I honestly just hope the game is good so I can have fun with it. Well, that's all for me in this short review. That being said, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Tell me another one, Uncle Joey.